following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Listening to the Adventure and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited about our next guest because this is a positively Pipeman guest. Okay, he has a show on our station, but get that for a second. He's just brilliant in what he projects about powerful business strategies. So what I like to know is, who is Michael Barbarita anyway?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Great to be here, by the way. Thank you for having me. So
my pleasure.
And what I'd like to do is just, give you a little story of my background. So back in 1999, I just sold my second business successfully. My first business sold for multiple seven figures. And I had this attitude that I could do no wrong. After owning and exiting two successful businesses, I thought I had the keys to the business kingdom, and that, quite frankly, that I could succeed at any business. So in all of this glory, I started an outpatient rehabilitation facility called Freedom Therapy Center. Now, in all the successful businesses that I owned, I always, and this is the critical part, Dean, I always implemented business and financial strategies that my competition wasn't doing. For example, my first business was a ski specialty retail business, and I grew the company from $2.5 million to $8 million in 5 years. And the contributing factor to that growth was a strategy that we preach called a risk reversal, where the seller in the transaction takes most or all the risk. And one of the problems that the customer had in the ski industry is they really never knew if the ski they were being sold by some hotshot ski salesperson was the right ski for them until they went up in the mountain and tried it out. So what we did is we implemented what we call the ski guarantee. Ski the ski 3 times. You don't like it, bring it back for a brand new pair and keep bringing it back until we get it right. Wow. Now, keep in mind what happens when skis hit the slope. They depreciate dramatically. It's like driving a car out of a showroom. So my managers and my employees thought I was absolutely out of my mind, because all they could do is they envisioned thousands of pair of skis coming back from the field and them having to do all this extra work and us losing a ton of money. But my mindset was a little different, and during the course of the next shows and stuff, as we go through our journey, I'm going to talk about how important mindset is. My mindset was that all the customer really wanted was a great ski experience. They weren't out to, put one over on the retailer. So what we did when we implemented, the first year we implemented the program, we sold 8,000 pair of skis, a 25% increase from the previous year, and only 8 came back. And next year we sold.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so 11,000 pair of skis the next year, and only 14 came back.
See, I'm like who you were talking about. I'm imagining when you first said this, I'm imagining like somebody like wipes out on the slopes, the skis snap in half, and they bring it back because hey, it didn't work for them. Right.
No, yeah, all a skier wants, at least this is what my research always showed, and how we ran our business, is that all they wanted was a great ski experience. Not a lot to ask.
Yeah.
But then when I fast forward to Freedom Therapy Center, which was the outpatient rehabilitation facility, I must have taken stupid pills, because I did exactly what my competition was doing. The way I marketed, I bought over 2,000 chocolate cakes, and I tried to bribe front office staffs to get to the doctors. That's what everybody was doing. I offered services the exact same way my competition was offering. No compelling offers, no strategic direction. and Dean, I know how to manage cash flow because I'm a financial guy. Oh God, we were hemorrhaging cash. Every month I had to go into my savings to fund the operating losses we were having.
And nobody wants to operate a business like that.
No, trust me. That's where you really learn how horrible a business can be when you have cash flow problems. It's just awful. Everybody's calling everybody. And what was interesting too is I made one of those promises to myself that we business owners always make. Just certain promises. I promised myself I wouldn't put any more money into the company bank account for my savings, and of course I broke that promise. But thank God I wasn't married. I'd be under the pressure of being told to get a real job, and I was staying up nights wondering what I was doing wrong. I was waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, worried about cash flow and all the customers I was losing. There was a million Wednesdays where there was no money in the company bank account, the payroll due on Friday. All the employees were leaving. They saw a sinking ship. People we owed money to were calling left and right. There was personal liability galore. And then it just all ended. I just fell on my face. And it's funny, I learned two things from that experience, from falling on my face. Number one, I learned that one of the hardest steps to take in life is the step after the fall, the next step. So 30 days after I closed Freedom Therapy Center, the Next Step CFO was born. And then the second thing I learned is I'm no longer doing what my competition is doing.
I think that's key right there. Like even I've seen, there's the places where they have pizza restaurants and one closes and a new one opens up and it closes and a new one opens up. And it's like, I always think to myself, do these people not get that every other pizza place has failed? Either they have to do something different or don't do pizza.
Yeah. I noticed that too in a few places in our market. That repetitive, same business, open, close, new business, open, close, same industry, same thing. It is really crazy. And so, if you take all of my background, I've got about 40 years of business ownership experience. And, you mentioned the radio show. I also wrote a book called Powerful Business Strategies, co-authored it. I'm a magazine contributor. I grew a business from 2.5 million to 8 million in the ski industry. And, I'm also what's called a certified profit coach, Dean. And let me tell you what a certified profit coach is. There's so many coaches and consultants that really don't know how to grow a small business. And the reason why being a certified profit coach is so important is we go through rigorous training to prove that we do know how to grow a small business. And there are very few coaches and consultants out there that go through that type of vigorous training to prove that they can actually do it. And so I'm really proud of that designation. And I believe that anybody who doesn't hire a certified profit coach, and there's only about 150 of us, is just making a big mistake.
Well, I'll even add to that, because you just hit one of my things, because I have certifications in coaching, and it so boggles my mind, these people that they wake up in the morning, they decide to be a coach with no qualifications, no certifications, no education, no nothing. And it's like, oh my God, it's like everybody's a coach. And I have to say that people that are listening right now, watching right now, if you wouldn't hire a lawyer that didn't pass the bar, you wouldn't hire a certified financial planner that wasn't a certified financial planner, right. And so I think that the professional designation, specifically like the one that you have, it is absolutely necessary if you're going to be coaching somebody. I mean, I had somebody I know that, funny enough, he was a wealth coach. Okay.
Yep.
But he drove a beat up pickup truck that was all rusty and never made money in his life. Like, listen, if you've become wealthy and lost it all, I'm okay with you being a coach. You have the roadmap to get there. Okay. We all fall off the mountain. Okay. But if you have never been to the mountain, how do you give people the GPS directions to get there? You've never been there. And so that's why I just wanted to add that it's so important that people do business with people like yourself that put in the time and effort to become a professional. They don't just wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'll be somebody's coach.
Right. And, the interesting thing too, Dean, is that every CFO in the Fortune 500 has to be strategic. Yet, many fractional CFOs get away without having to be strategic. In other words, many fractional CFOs just do the stuff that is really what most people think CFOs do, which is the business and cash flow forecasting, identifying critical metrics in the business, solving cash flow problems. But we add that element of business strategy, which is something that, like I said, if you're a CFO in the Fortune 500 and you don't understand business strategy, you don't get the job. But
like
fractional CFOs get away with it. What's that?
It's like a chess game to me. You can't play chess unless you don't know all the strategic moves of what's going to happen. Like, you should know. And I think your experience also leads to that. Like, forget the good experience for a second. The failing experience is what allows you to be able to help others to be strategic, because you can anticipate. Because listen, before that happened, and you even alluded to it, and we all get like this, we think we're unstoppable. We don't think about that we can, that we have to strategize against what could happen in a negative way, because it's not going to happen to us until it does. And then you have somebody like you that can really and give people the insight to the strategy so that they don't walk through the same steps you did on the negative side, but do walk through the same steps on the positive side.
Exactly. And so that is my background. And, one of the reasons why I went into this business is because I learned so much from the business experience that I had.
Yeah.
Like, now, you never live long enough to see it all. I'll still say that. But I believe I have seen a lot of different things. And I have 4 clients in Denmark and around the world, as well as in the several clients in the United States.
Nice. And so how do people reach out to you, check out your website, check you out on socials, contact you so they can get some strategies for profit and success?
Well, here's the best way, Dean. One of the things that I do, we're always updating our book. Why is that? Well, business is always changing. I mean, just a couple of months ago, it was, higher interest rates and high inflation. And, today it's similar, but we're now adding tariffs to the mix. Yeah. So we're constantly testing our strategies. We know they work in any economic environment, but we need industry information to prove what we already know. And so what we like doing is we love interviewing business owners for the next edition of our book and get their insights. And the way it works, the way the interview works is it's 60 minutes on Zoom. I present a strategy. I present strategies from the book, and then I ask the interviewee what they think the impact would be if somebody in their industry implemented that strategy, and then I document it for the book. And the way to get a book interview is just go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the contact form, and in the message box, just put the word book interview. And I'll send you a calendar link to schedule a book interview with me.
Nice. And then how about let's tell everybody about your show, how they can see it live, how they can catch the podcast, all that good stuff.
Okay. Yes. Our podcast is located at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. Our show airs on W4CY on Mondays at noon Eastern time. It's an hour show. It's called Powerful Business Strategies, just like our book. And we go over business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing.
I love it. I love it. And let's tell people about the book and how they could get their hands on the book as well.
Okay. One of the great things about the book is it's free. I give it away. It's my contribution to the business world. There is some very valuable strategies in that book, both business and financial, by the way. And you could just go to my website, nextstepcfo.net, and download it. Simple as that.
Nice. Well, I love it. I can't wait to talk to you again next week on the Positively Pipeman segment of the Adventures of Pipeman. And thanks for being here. And I look forward to a lot more great strategies for our listeners and viewers. And I know you help a lot of people. Everybody needs to reach out to you if they have a business, because to me, it's the only thing that's going to make their dreams come true.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
This is Stevie Stewart from The Suite, and you're listening to and watching The Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Incarceration, America's rock, metal, and tattoo festival with Slipknot. Falling in Reverse. Five-Finger Death Punch. Plus Marilyn Manson, 3 Days Grace, Beartooth, Knocked Loose, Lamb of God, Parkway Drive, I Prevail, In This Moment, and so many more. Report to the Ohio State Reformatory on July 18th through 20th, 2025 to face your sentencing. 3 days of rock, tattoos, and the return of the Haunted Blood Prison. Passes for incarceration are on sale now at incarceration.com. Bourbon and Beyond, the world's largest bourbon, food, and music festival returns with Fish, Noah Khan, Sturgill Simpson, The Lumineers, plus Jack White, Vincent Boone, Krungben, Alabama Shakes, Cage the Elephant, Ringo Starr, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, Goo Goo Dolls, and many more. Bourbon and Beyond returns to Louisville September 11 to 14. Passes are on sale now at bourbonandbeyond.com.
Hey, this is Jules Peters, and you're listening to The Pipeman at W4CY.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with, man, this is going to be a good one, because this is a show host on our network that talks about something that's not talked about a lot, and I know I've experienced it. I know you, the listeners, have probably experienced it, and now we're going to find out why Johnny hates sports with Fred Engh. How are you?
Good morning, Pipeman, and it's great to be with you this morning.
Oh, great to have you. And so tell me, let's start off right off the get-go. What was the impetus that made you come up with the concept of talking about why Johnny hates sports? What does that represent?
Well, the whole idea of, people have asked me after the fact of, I wrote the book, Why Johnny Hates Sports. And because of my background, I had 7 kids that played, and I saw all the things I didn't want to see happen out there. But the whole reason why Johnny hates sports is, what happens is kids are 6 years old. They hardly know how to tie their shoes, and yet we expect them to play like they play baseball or whatever in the major leagues. So that's what starts out with kids, and then all of a sudden the league says, "Hey, we got to have somebody come out here to coach, and it's got to be you, Dad," because we don't have coaches. So here you got what I call Billy Jones's father, or Johnny Jones's father, or Mary, whatever's mother. And somebody's out there in the field trying to coach them. They may not have ever played the sport. They don't know anything about the sport at all, of catching, throwing, kicking, hitting skills. So they're out there as a coach. So can you imagine the kid trying to be, having fun with somebody trying to show them to do that? And then the next thing that you have is you've got the league itself. And this league is made up of a group of guys who are plumbers, truck drivers, pharmacists. Who cares?
Oh, you mean they don't actually play in the sport that they're running?
No. So you got them out there, and they're organizing all of this. And so the main thing they say, well, what is our goal here? Well, what is every sport's goal? It's winning. And so get it back to the idea of kids starting out at 6 years old. And the statistics show, amazing, isn't it? They start at 6 years old, and by the age of 13, 70% of them will have quit. And when asked why they quit, they say that it ceased to be fun because of the pressure put on parents. You know, parents are out there screaming, yelling because they dropped a fly ball. I was doing an interview one time on TV in Tampa. Never forget it. Right. Here's a guy in a hockey program. Kid's about 8, 9 years old, whatever, same thing. He misses a goal, and the camera catches him, and he's yelling and screaming. He says, "You bum, Billy, you can never do anything right." So I say, how would you like to be that age and your father calling you a bum because you missed a goal in a hockey?
Oh, and hockey is the worst out of all of them, because I coached a bunch of sports, but I coached hockey, and that was the worst. You know, and like to your point, I played baseball for 9 years. By the time I got to high school, I was over it. And I originally, I wanted to go to the major leagues originally, but then it was just like, I was over it by then. But then in coaching, I noticed other coaches that like, how are they teaching these kids how to play baseball? They never played themselves. That's what ended up me coaching, because like I would have my kid on a team that the coach didn't even know what they were talking about or anything about the game.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, you know, when I mentioned before that the father gets out there and ties his kid up, and they say, well, the line's over here for you. You know, he signed up to coach. He says, what? Are you kidding me? I'm not coaching. I got work to do, and I get home, and okay, well then next, because Billy, your son, can't play. What do you mean he can't play? Well, if we don't have a coach, then he can't play. We don't have a team. So there you go, and you got people out there doing it and trying to do it. But the worst part about it, I mean, you know, you can be a baseball coach and just sit there in a dugout and watch what goes on, but that's not what happens. Now they get all excited, you know, the score's 2-2, and now it's 5th or 7th inning, whatever. And now that everybody starts to get nervous, the people in the stands start yelling at the coach, put him in there, put him in there. This guy's saying, wait a minute. And so it's just bedlam. And that's, like I say, 70% of the kids drop out, and that's evidence of why, you know, it's such a bad situation for so many kids.
Yeah. And you know, it's a bad situation for the parents too, I find, for multiple reasons. You tell me what your opinion is, but number one, because, you know, they first of all, they don't know what they're doing. So if there's parents that are seeing their kids that could have potential that aren't being taught the right way, and how those parents react to those coaches, or you have, you know, like the typical coach, happens a lot in hockey, where, you know, they think their kid should play all the time and they're a bully. And so ergo, they're going to bully the coach, and, you know, all the things that go on that these kids have to see. Now, it's bad enough that, you know, they're put under pressure to, you know, play like they're professionals instead of in a rec league. But now they're seeing their parents act ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned they're playing in a rec league, and what is in the last several years is coming along is the travel teams. And so what happens with the travel teams, it's really, really hurting the rec programs. You got kids in communities, you know, no matter where you live in the country, there's parks and rec departments, and they've got fields all over town, Northwest Park, Southwest Park, East, whatever. And on those parks, they got ball fields that they built with the idea that kids would play baseball. Well, the rec department doesn't organize it. They allow the permits for Billy Jones's father and whoever come in and say, hey, we got to have a baseball program for our kids. And that's how it starts. So you got the tune of millions of kids across the country that are now playing in rec programs. And then in the last few years, what happens is they go in to try to get a permit and say, sorry that it's not available. What do you mean it's not available? Well, we have travel teams that have paid money to lease the field. And so the travel teams, they appeal to the parents' ego and they say, yeah, look, if you sign up, who's doing this? This is a code, or excuse me, the organizer of the travel team who's getting paid, and the coaches are getting paid. And so they say to the parent, look, your kid doesn't sign up for this. I mean, he's a good ball player and he's going to make it in the major leagues, or he's going to get his college scholarship. So you don't want to miss out on this. You know how much these people are paying for a year for their kid to go out there and play and travel?
Oh, I'm sure the listeners don't know unless they're paying it, because it's a lot of money.
$15,000. I was telling somebody, one of the interviews the other day, we said, it must cost you about $5,000. And this lady laughed. She said, yeah, I wish it was $5,000. $15,000 we paid last year. I said, what for? Well, you go to the tournament, you got to take the kids, you got to stay in a hotel, you got to pay the coaches, you got to pay everything. And the worst part about it is now these guys that are calling themselves professional coaches, they're saying, if your kid doesn't go out there and play all year long, and guess what happens? Just like you were talking before, you get to a certain age, you get burnt out and say, the hell with this, I'm out of here. And because it's just too much.
I find where we are too in Florida, it's even more prevalent because, like, I'm from New Jersey, and what was cool about in New Jersey when I was raising my kids is that they could play a different sport for different seasons because there was, it only was certain seasons. Here, what I really didn't like is, if you take a season off of this sport to go play another sport, well, you're not in the in anymore. Like, you're not part of the clique anymore. It's like you can't miss one season or else you fall to the bottom of the heap.
Yeah, the worst part of that whole deal is you got the kid that he's got friends and he's got other things that he may want to do, but he says to himself, I don't want to disappoint my parents because they're spending all this money, so I'll just stick with it and stay out there. I tell you,
or the parents tell them that, right? Yeah, like the parents are like, no, if you want to quit after the season, you can, but you have to stick with it no matter what. Or they don't even give the option of quitting after the season. It's like, nope, you need to do this. And I think kids want to try different sports too.
Yeah, the funny thing with the show that I do, is you kind of well know, called Why Johnny Hates Sports, which a little promo here is on Friday morning at 11 a.m. for anybody that's listening here. But, talking about it the other day, one of the shows, that the woman was saying, yeah, we spent $15,000 for a year, I said, well, why do you spend that money? They said, well, my kid can get a scholarship. If they don't do this, they're not going to get a scholarship. I said, well, what if you just forgot about all that and started saving all that money? And
right?
Because you're not going to be guaranteed to get a scholarship, but if you put the money aside, you'll have money for them to go to college. Because, the statistics will show, it's amazing the parents, even though they know this, they don't give a damn. They say, hey, he can make it. But less than 2% of any kid that goes out in a baseball program and signs a major league contract will ever play in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. Amazing? So, some of the people that I've had on the show a guy that actually you're going to have me back next week. He went through the whole process of that, and I asked him about it. I said, your parents push you into that because of these? Oh yeah, absolutely. They knew I was going to make it to the major leagues, and he signed a contract, played for the Cardinals in the minor leagues, and he said I rode around a bus all around the Carolinas. Worst experience of my life. Never played a day in the major leagues.
Wow. And then, you were talking about parents before. Like, I was at one of my grandson's football games, a tournament, one of those tournaments. And this guy brought his kid into the bathroom, and the whole place could hear him screaming at the kid, and just totally belittling the kid because maybe he made a mistake in the game,
Yeah, you talk about hockey. Hockey and football are the two worst for kids in sports. I'll tell you a quick story. But mother was telling me one time in one of the talks I was giving somewhere. She came up afterwards and she said, "I got to tell you what happened to my son in the football program. He was going to go to a dental appointment, and I had to go to practice and pick him up. And I got there, and when I got there, I couldn't find him. And I went over to the coach. I said, 'Where's my son?' He said, 'He's over in the car over there.' I said, I said, 'What's he doing in the car?' She said, 'Well, he's over there.' She goes over, opens the door of the car, and this is in summer, and it's hot, and the car's running, the heat's turned on high, and he's wrapped in plastic wrap.
Oh, yeah, I know about that.
And so what happens is the league says, all right, now we got this real good quarterback, and he's got to weigh 115 pounds. If he weighs any more than that, they're going to have weigh-in tomorrow. You got to lose it. And Tommy, you got to get in there and lose all this weight. So he gets in there, and it's, heat exhaustion. I mean, the poor kid could die from that. And then the mother knew it, and she ended up suing the coach. So people don't realize that. I mean, there's so many ugly, ugly stories about youth football coaches because, and I can say this because I was a head football coach in Wilmington, Delaware, in the high school. And so I know about football. And one thing is, football is a tough game for tough kids. And if you're not that, then you shouldn't be playing it. And so many parents get their kids out there and they're going to be trying to play football, and they shouldn't even be out in the field because they don't want to be. They don't like to get hit. And so it's just a rat race. But I'll tell you, the biggest fallacy of youth sports is called the maturing level. You got a kid that comes out, and let's say we get back to a 7-year-old. Well, maturation wise, there can be 4-year difference between that age group. So now you got a 7-year-old who managed to see that kid is 12 years old or what? He's not 7 years old. Well, he is because he matured early. So now you got him, and guess what the coach does? Oh man, that's good. Baseball, it's going to be my pitcher. Football, it's going to be my quarterback, because they think of him as this big kid. So now you got the other 7-year-old who is a reverse, and now he can be a 7-year-old and can be the body of a 4-year-old. And so now you have those two, and the league doesn't care. How old are you, son? 7 years old. You're in this group, 7-year-olds. And so, you used to watch the Little League World Series, and you look at the kid on the mound, and you say, what the hell is that kid? Is not 12 years old. He's 6'1", and I'm not kidding. You've probably seen it. The kid in the Little League World Series, 6'1", throwing a ball, 80 miles an hour. And how
my 10-year-old grandson is almost my size, height-wise, and he's definitely stockier than me. So in football, he goes through that. Like, if he's in the 10U, then there's a bunch of kids that are like up to his knee and stomach size he's playing with.
And guess what the uncle and the parents and everybody else says, that's my boy out there, and look at it, he's big and he's going to dominate in this whole thing. And you never know what's in the kid's mind. I mean, he may be bigger and whatnot, but inside he's not, and he maybe doesn't even want to be out there. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to paint the picture that all youth sports are not good, because for the overwhelming majority, it's a great learning experience to develop self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, because you just develop that, not to even mention the physical benefits of starting out and learning how exercise, is important. So, like I say, I don't want to
keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them out of trouble too. Like if you don't have your kids in those kind of activities, they're going to be doing other activities that are much more dangerous.
Oh yeah, I live right across the street from a park here, in big park, and every afternoon, Sundays, it's just packed with kids playing soccer. And I think, if they didn't have it, what are those kids going to be doing?
They're probably going to be doing drugs and alcohol in that park.
Yeah, you got it. And so, that's the good part about with sports and what it does for kids. But we got to get rid of the ugly part, and we've been trying to do it with our organization for several years.
Yeah, tell everybody a little bit more about your organization, how they can reach out to you, how they can help, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the organization is the National Alliance for Youth Sports. I started the organization way back before the 2000. And what happened is, based on all of that, I was saying that coaches need to be trained. And then started the organization. Would you believe today that throughout the country, 4 million plus coaches in communities across the country have gone through the program, and been conducted by local recreation professionals. So there are about 2,000 recreation departments that have a certified youth sport administrator who conducts training for parents and coaches and administrators of the program. So yeah, that has been going on, and it's a nonprofit organization that has just been helping educate, because that's the only thing you can do. You can educate people, and then in communities they make it mandatory. You're like the story in Jupiter a few years back, that they decided they was going to make it mandatory that if you're a parent, you'd have to go through our parent program that teaches parents how to behave and the importance of what it means to kids. And the parent didn't go to the program, their kid couldn't play. So it caught.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
It caught national news, and I was on everything from Good Morning America to ESPN or whatever. And people would say, well, you can't do that to parents. They did it, and now many programs across the country do it, and it should be done so parents can come in and sit there and say, you can't misbehave. This is about kids. It's not about you.
Exactly. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think it should be required, because too many parents don't know how to act, and that's what I was referring to before. The kids are seeing this, and like, I think of the kid that their parent is the one misbehaving, how embarrassing it is, because then they have to go back to school with these kids they're playing with and play with them on the team. And, kids sometimes aren't nice to other kids, especially in those embarrassing situations.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, there's so many stories that people have told me over the years of, how the kids here. A judge, I remember telling me one time, is a judge in Alabama, and he said we were riding home in the car, and my son was riding in the back seat. My wife's next to me. He said, my wife turns to him and just berates him the whole way home, telling him what he did wrong in the game, and he cost them to lose the game because of what he did. And he said, that was my wife saying that. And so I say to people, you know, I don't care whether you're a psychologist, psychiatrist, a judge, or whoever it is, people are all the same, and they need to understand their words have such an impact on kids.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's funny because my oldest daughter, she was in gymnastics, and stuff like gymnastics and cheerleading. Oh man, those parents get serious.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I say to people, though, you know, when we talk about parent behavior in sports, it's so different. That the parent can be up in the stands and the kid strikes out and parent yells, "You dummy, why would you strike out?" I said, can you imagine the same thing happens in school and they're having a spelling bee and the parents are in the room watching the spelling bee and the kid misspells a word and the parent jumps up and yells, "How can you be so stupid, Sam?
Right?
You should know that. We've been working with you." Everybody in the room been looking, but who is this idiot? But they don't do it in baseball. It's just part of it, and people will look, well, that's part of the game, the parents, but it's not anymore. I mean,
it shouldn't be a part of the game.
Yeah.
So we're thankful that we have an organization like yours that can help the kids, the parents, the coaches, everybody. One last time before we go, give out all your information for your organization, how people can help, how they can contact you, but also information on your show right here on W4CY Radio, Why Johnny Hates Sports. They can tune in every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And take it away, Fred.
Yeah, if you would think about doing it, it would be great, because the organization is NAYS.org. That's the National Alliance for Youth Sports. And all you'd have to do is say, click in there, NAYS.org, and just say, wow. And you'll see all the things that the organization does and how you can get involved in one way or another. And then, of course, as Dean is saying, is every Friday morning at 11 a.m., I've been able to have some really interesting people, recreation people. And the last few weeks we talked about, travel teams, and as recreation people, what do they see in their communities about it. And then other people, had our Herb Kirk Street, who's ESPN, he's a broadcaster and talking about kids in sports. And so people at different levels, sports psychologists, psychology, talking about all these important things. And, parents that are there and listeners that are listening to this, if you got kids, I think it's really important for you to hear what other people are saying, because then you can begin to look inside yourself to say, oh yeah, he's talking about me.
Yeah, right.
So
sometimes you do have to hear that outside voice.
Yeah, you got it. So it's Friday morning at 11 a.m. and we look forward to seeing you.
Well, thanks a lot for all you do, and your show is amazing. So everybody's got to tune in, or they can't listen to my show. And and it's same bat channel right here on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. And Fred, thank you for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
You got it, Dean, and I like seeing your Pipeman shows from time to time, talking about different categories.
Oh yeah, you never know what Pipeman personality is going to show up.
I hear you. Great being with you.
Ditto.
Hey, this is John Lodge, and you're listening to The Adventures of Pipeman. of W4CY.
Louder Than Life, September 21st through the 24th in Louisville with Foo Fighters, Green Day, Tool, Avenged Sevenfold, Godsmack, Limp Bizkit, Pantera, Queens of the Stone Age, Weezer, Megadeth, Turnstile, and many more. Get your passes on sale now at louderthanlifefestival.com.
Aftershock Festival returns to Sacramento for its biggest year yet with Blink-182, Deftones, Korn, Bring Me the Horizon, plus A Perfect Circle, Bad Omens, Rob Zombie, Good Charlotte, Turnstile, Gojira, Marilyn Manson, Knocked Loose, 3 Days Grace, and so many more. Aftershock, October 2nd to 5th at Discovery Park in Sacramento. Passes are on sale now at AftershockFestival.com.
Hi, this is Carmen Apiece, and you're listening to W4CY Radio. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.